During the SATs, a girl slipped me a note saying, "I think I'm having a miscarriage." "But you don't seem pregnant to me," I whispered without thinking. Monica Lombardi pressed her finger to her lips and slid the tiny folded note closer. I read it again. "I think I'm having a miscarriage." We were in the gym taking SATs. 200 kids, dead quiet except for pencils on paper. I'd never talked to Monica before. She was the principal's daughter, the one who studied all the time. Mr. Collins was doing his proctor walk, 3 rows away. He came by every 2 minutes. I looked at Monica. Her face wasn't right. Gray, sweaty. She held her pencil but wasn't writing. I wrote on my test booklet, "Hospital, now." She shook her head hard and wrote back, "I can't leave. I need this scholarship, but no one can know." That's when I saw the blood. A dark spot on her jeans getting bigger. She saw me looking and tried to pull her sweater down. The girl behind us, Melissa Kraft, started to raise her hand. She'd noticed too. I knocked my calculator off my desk. Loud. Everyone jumped. Mr. Collins looked over. "Sorry," I mouthed, bending down to get it. Monica tied her sweater around her waist fast. 20 minutes remaining, the speaker announced. Monica grabbed the desk edge. Her breathing was weird, short and hard, like my sister when she had her baby. This was bad. "Help me," she wrote. Her handwriting was shaky. "Hurts." Mr. Collins walked toward us. 2 rows. 1 row. Monica made a tiny sound, tried to hide it with a cough. "Everything all right?" he asked. But he was looking at Monica, not me. Really looking. "Yes, sir," Monica said. "Just cramps." Something weird crossed his face. He actually stepped closer. "You sure? You can go to the nurse if—" "I'm fine." Monica cut him off. Sharp. Not like her at all. He backed up, walked on, but I saw him glance back twice. Monica grabbed my wrist under the desk, cold and wet with sweat. "Too much blood. I can't do this." She wrote something else. "He can't know. Please." I didn't understand, but there wasn't time. I stood up fast. "I can't breathe. Heart attack." Everything went crazy. People running, yelling. Someone called 911. The test coordinator, Mrs. Banks, rushed over with the other proctors. Everyone except Mr. Collins. He hung back by the door. I grabbed Monica, helped her up. We stumbled to the exit together. "You can't leave together," Mrs. Banks shouted. "She's helping me," I gasped, holding my chest. "Let them go," Mr. Collins suddenly said. Loud, desperate. "Just let them go." Mrs. Banks stared at him. Everyone did. His face was white, panicked. In the hallway, Monica whispered, "Nobody knows I was pregnant. Nobody. My parents think I don't even date." She fell against the wall. So much blood. The sweater hid nothing. "Oh, God," I said. "You need help now." 4 months, she gasped. "I'm 4 months." I hid it. Baggy clothes. Saying I was gaining weight from stress since my birthday, since I turned 18. The main doors burst open. Paramedics rushed in. Saw Monica. Forgot about me completely. Got her on the gurney fast. "Possible miscarriage," one called out. "Looks about 16 weeks. Heavy bleeding." "My parents," Monica cried. "They can't know. They'll kill me." "Your age?" the paramedic asked, checking vitals. 18. Just turned 18 in January. "Then we don't have to call them right away. You're an adult." Monica's whole body relaxed for a second, then went rigid again. Mr. Collins had followed us out. Stopped dead when he saw her. Face white, hands opening and closing. "Get him away from me," Monica said. Clear. Loud. The paramedics looked confused. "Miss, we need to—" "I said get him away!" Mrs. Banks appeared in the doorway. "What's happening? Robert, why aren't you with your section?" "Robert." Mr. Collins, 28 years old, track coach, everyone's favorite teacher. "Will she be okay?" His voice cracked. He took a step forward. "You family?" a paramedic asked. "I'm her," he started, stopped, swallowed. "Her teacher." Monica turned her head, looked right at him. The fury in her eyes made me step back. "Tell them," she said. "Tell them the truth. Monica, please, tell them." She tried to sit up. The paramedics held her down. "Tell them how you waited, how you counted down to my 18th birthday, how you said we could finally be together." Mrs. Banks dropped her clipboard. It clattered on the floor. "Tell them about the birthday present," Monica continued. "The hotel room, how you said it was legal now, how you'd been waiting 2 years." The paramedics closed the ambulance doors and pulled away with lights flashing. Mrs. Banks grabbed my arm and steered me back inside while Mr. Collins stood frozen on the sidewalk. Someone pushed a blanket around my shoulders in the nurse's office even though I wasn't cold. My hands kept shaking and I couldn't make them stop. The nurse asked if I really had chest pain, but her voice sounded far away. I kept seeing Mr. Collins's face when Monica screamed at him, the way his mouth opened and closed without words coming out, the panic in his eyes. I sat on the vinyl chair and pulled my knees up because my legs felt wrong, weak. The nurse checked my pulse and said something about shock. I nodded but wasn't listening. Monica's voice kept playing in my head. "Tell them how you waited. Tell them about the birthday present." the hotel room. My stomach twisted and I thought I might throw up. The nurse handed me a paper cup of water. I drank it without tasting anything. The blanket scratched against my neck. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Everything felt too bright and too loud at the same time. I reached into my pocket without thinking, and my fingers touched paper. Soft paper, damp from someone's sweaty hands. I pulled out the note Monica had slid across the desk during the test, her careful handwriting. I think I'm having a miscarriage. The words looked different now, not just a cry for help. Evidence. Real evidence of something that actually happened. Not a bad dream I could wake up from. I stared at the paper, and my hands started shaking harder. This piece of paper proved Monica was pregnant, that she was bleeding during the SAT, that I helped her get out. My fingerprints were on it. Her fingerprints were on it. I folded it carefully and put it back in my pocket. My heart was beating too fast again. The nurse glanced at me but didn't ask what I was holding. The door opened and Mrs. Banks came in with Mr. Collins hovering behind her in the doorway. He wouldn't come all the way inside, just stood there with one hand on the doorframe. Mrs. Banks asked what exactly happened in the gym. Her voice was sharp, professional, but her face looked scared. Mr. Collins cleared his throat, cleared it again, like he wanted to say something but the words wouldn't come out. I noticed his hands were shaking worse than mine. His face was still white, sweaty. He kept looking at me, then looking away. Mrs. Banks asked me again what happened. I told her Monica was sick and I panicked. That's all. Collins cleared his throat a third time, opened his mouth, closed it. Mrs. Banks turned to look at him, asked if he had something to add. He shook his head fast, backed up a step, said he needed to check on his other students. Mrs. Banks told him to stay put. Nobody was going anywhere until they figured this out. The nurse's phone rang. She stepped away to answer it, turned her back to us. I watched her shoulders get tight. She said, "Okay," 3 times. "Yes, I understand." When she turned around, her face was different, serious, heavy. She looked at me and said Monica was at the hospital. They were working on her, condition guarded. I felt sick thinking about all that blood soaking through her jeans, the dark spot getting bigger, how she tried to hide it with her sweater. The nurse said they'd know more soon. Mrs. Banks asked if Monica's parents had been called. The nurse said the hospital was handling that. Mr. Collins made a sound, a weird choking sound. Everyone looked at him. He said he needed air, walked out fast. The door slammed behind him. Mrs. Banks stared after him with her mouth tight. She looked at me, asked if there was something she should know. I didn't answer. The door burst open again and Principal Lombardi rushed in. I'd forgotten. Monica's dad. The principal was Monica's dad. His face was completely tight, unreadable, like he was trying to be professional when his daughter just got taken away in an ambulance. He asked the nurse what happened. She told him about the hospital. Condition guarded. He nodded once. His jaw clenched. I couldn't look at him. Didn't know how to look at him. He was Monica's father, but he was also the principal. He had to act like the principal even though his daughter was bleeding in a hospital. He turned to me, asked if I was the student who helped her. I nodded. He said thank you. His voice cracked on the words. He cleared his throat, asked Mrs. Banks what happened in the gym. She started explaining the heart attack, the disruption, the ambulance. He listened without moving. His hands were in fists at his sides. When she finished, he just stood there, silent. Then he walked out without saying anything else. Mrs. Banks followed him into the hallway. I could hear her voice, loud, getting louder. Then I heard other voices, kids, lots of kids, yelling. Mrs. Banks came back in and told the nurse she needed to make an announcement. The nurse handed her the phone. Mrs. Banks called the main office, said to void the entire SAT section for everyone in the gym. There was silence on the other end, then arguing. Mrs. Banks said it again, void the section. The disruption was too significant. Test integrity was compromised. She hung up. The yelling in the hallway got worse. I could hear kids screaming about college applications, scholarships, early decision deadlines. Someone was crying. Someone else was swearing. A girl's voice kept saying, "This isn't fair," over and over. I realized I just ruined the test for 200 people, including myself, my scores, my applications, everything. The blanket felt heavier. I pulled it tighter. A woman with kind eyes sat down next to me. She introduced herself as Paige Mason, the school counselor. She asked gently what really happened with my heart attack. Her voice was soft, not accusing, just asking. I looked at her tired face and decided to tell the truth. I faked it to get Monica out. She needed help and I didn't know what else to do. Paige nodded slowly. She didn't look mad, just sad, tired, like she'd seen this kind of thing before. She asked if I was okay, if I needed to talk. I shook my head. She said I could come to her office anytime. She wrote her extension on a sticky note, told me what I did was brave, that helping someone in crisis was the right thing even if it felt scary. She squeezed my shoulder, asked if I wanted her to call my parents. I said no, not yet. She nodded, said she'd check on me later. left the sticky note on the table next to me. A man in a suit came in carrying a briefcase. He showed me a badge. Detective Samuel Abbott. He moved faster than I expected for a detective. Asked if I was the student who helped Monica Lombardi. I said yes. He pulled out gloves, the thin blue kind. Asked if I had anything Monica gave me. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the note. He took it carefully with his gloved hands, held it up to the light, read it, put it in a clear plastic bag, sealed it, wrote something on a label. He pulled out a notebook, asked me to describe everything I saw in the gym. I tried to remember, tried to put it in order, but my brain felt like static, fuzzy. He asked specific questions. What time did Monica pass me the note? Where was Mr. Collins? What did Monica look like? How much blood? What did she say? I answered everything I could remember. He wrote it all down. His handwriting was neat, careful. When he finished, he gave me his card, said he might need to talk to me again. I put the card in my pocket where the note used to be. Another woman came in, younger than Paige, professional looking. She introduced herself as Rhea Morris, the Title IX coordinator. I didn't know what that meant, she explained. She handled cases involving discrimination, harassment, sexual misconduct. She said she needed to interview me tomorrow about what I witnessed. I nodded. She handed me her card, told me I did the right thing helping Monica, but her tone was serious, heavy, like this was just beginning, not ending. She said Monica was 18, an adult, but there were still protocols, procedures, things that needed to happen. She asked if anyone had threatened me. I said no. She said to call her immediately if that changed, if anyone tried to influence what I said. She left her card on top of Paige's sticky note, 2 pieces of paper with phone numbers, 2 adults saying this was serious. I looked at the clock. 3 hours since the test started. 3 hours since Monica passed me that note. It felt like 3 years. That evening I sat in my room staring at my phone. I wanted to message Monica, check if she was okay, but I didn't know what to say. Everything I typed sounded stupid. Are you okay? Obviously not. I'm sorry? For what? Hope you're feeling better? She had a miscarriage. Better seemed like the wrong word. I deleted 5 different messages. Finally, I typed something short. Hope you're doing better. Sent it before I could overthink it. Then I stared at my phone, waiting. The message showed delivered, then read, but no response came. I watched the screen until my eyes hurt. Nothing. I put the phone down, picked it up again. Still nothing. Monica was out there somewhere, in a hospital, dealing with things I couldn't imagine. And I was sitting in my room with my stupid phone, waiting for a response that wasn't coming. The detective's card sat on my desk, the counselor's note, the Title IX coordinator's contact, 3 pieces of paper that said my life just got complicated. I turned off my phone, lay down in the dark, couldn't sleep. Ceiling stared back at me in the dark. White paint with 1 water stain in the corner shaped like Florida. I counted the texture bumps, lost track, started over. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, 3 in the morning, an email notification. I picked it up. Rhea Morris had sent a message to all of Monica's teachers with me CC'd for some reason. Subject line read, Student Accommodation Plan. I opened it. The email explained that Monica Lombardi would be returning to classes soon and needed certain accommodations due to a medical situation, extensions on assignments, flexibility with attendance, option to leave class if needed, access to campus escort services, counseling resources available through Paige Mason's office. The language was careful, professional, no details about what actually happened, but seeing it spelled out like that made my stomach twist. This wasn't just something that happened and then ended. This was official now, part of the school system, documentation and protocols and accommodation plans. I put the phone back down, closed my eyes, didn't sleep. The next morning, I dragged myself to the school early and checked the student portal on my phone in the parking lot. Monica had finally responded to my message. I clicked it open fast. Her reply was short, just a few sentences. Thanks for getting me out. I'm physically stable now. Don't need you to rescue me, though. Just be honest if they ask questions. I read it 5 times trying to understand her tone. Was she mad at me? Grateful? Setting boundaries? All of those things? The words felt careful, measured, like she'd thought about what to say before typing it. I started to write back, then deleted it. Started again, deleted again. Finally, I just typed okay and sent it. She didn't need me trying to fix things or be some hero. She needed me to respect what she was asking for. That was it. My phone rang during second period. I looked at the screen. Detective Samuel Abbott. I asked the teacher if I could take it in the hallway. She nodded, and I stepped out fast, answered while walking toward the bathroom. Detective Abbott's voice was calm, but serious. He wanted to warn me about something. There was a possibility I'd get subpoenaed later if this case went to court. He explained what that meant. Legal requirement to testify, under oath, in front of a judge and jury. He told me to keep all my communications documented. Don't delete anything. Text messages, emails, notes, even stuff that seemed unimportant. Everything might become evidence. I leaned against the wall, trying to process this. Court, testimony, evidence, words that belonged on TV shows, not in my actual life. He asked if I understood. I said yes. He gave me his direct number again in case I needed anything. Then he hung up. I stood there holding my phone, feeling the weight of what he'd just said. This was real. This was happening. That afternoon, Belinda texted me a link. Local news. I clicked it. Sloan Rivera had written an article in the town paper. The headline read, "Allegations of inappropriate conduct under investigation at local high school." She didn't name anyone specifically, didn't mention Monica or Collins or even which school, but everyone would know. The article was vague, talked about an incident during standardized testing, a student taken to the hospital, an investigation underway, sources close to the situation, allegations being taken seriously. I scrolled down to the comment section. Big mistake. Hundreds of comments already. People speculating about who it was, taking sides. Some saying the girl must be lying for attention. Others saying they always knew something was off about that teacher. Arguments breaking out between strangers who knew nothing about what actually happened. Someone wrote that false accusations ruin men's lives. Someone else wrote that girls need to stop crying wolf. Another person said teachers should be held to higher standards. The words blurred together. My chest felt tight. These people were arguing about Monica's life like it was a debate topic, like it was entertainment, like they had any right to an opinion about something they hadn't witnessed. I closed the browser, felt sick, put my phone away. The next day, Collins's union released a statement. I saw it shared on social media, official letterhead, careful legal language. The statement expressed support for their member during this difficult time, emphasized the importance of due process, reminded everyone that allegations are not facts. His attorney went on record, too, gave a quote to Sloan Rivera for a follow-up article. He said any relationship between his client and the student in question was consensual between two adults, that his client had done nothing illegal, that he looked forward to clearing his name. I wanted to scream reading that. Consensual between adults. Monica just turned 18 in January. Collins had been her teacher since she was 16. He'd counted down the days until her birthday, waited for her to be legal. But nobody seemed to care about that part. The attorney made it sound like they'd met as equals, like there was no power difference between a 28-year-old teacher and his teenage student, like timing it to her 18th birthday made it okay. I threw my phone across my bed, paced my room, felt the anger burning in my chest with nowhere to go. Principal Lombardi called an assembly the next morning. The whole school packed into the auditorium. He stood at the podium looking tired, older than usual. He talked about respecting privacy during difficult times, about not spreading rumors or engaging in speculation, about how the administration was handling the situation appropriately through proper channels. His voice had this careful neutrality to it, professional, measured, but I could see the panic underneath, the way his hands gripped the podium too tight, the way his eyes scanned the crowd without really focusing. He was Monica's father. His daughter was at the center of this, and he had to stand up there and give this generic speech about protocols and procedures. I wondered if he knew anything about Collins and Monica before the SAT incident, if there were signs he missed, or worse, signs he saw and ignored. He finished the speech and dismissed us back to class. The hallways buzzed with whispers. Monica sat on her bed that night, scrolling through old messages on her phone. She'd been avoiding them, didn't want to look, but Rhea Morris had asked her to go through everything and identify relevant conversations. She started from 2 years ago, sophomore year, when she was 16 and Collins was her track coach. The messages started innocent. Good job at practice today. Keep up the hard work. Then they got friendlier. You're doing great. I'm proud of you. Then more personal. You're special. I see potential in you that others don't. She kept scrolling, felt sick. There, a message from exactly 2 years ago, her 16th birthday. He'd sent it late at night. 364 days until you're 18 with a heart emoji. Monica stared at it, felt the shame twist in her stomach, but also something else, something harder, anger. He'd been counting, planning, waiting. She took a screenshot with shaking hands, then another and another. Every message that showed the pattern, the grooming, the countdown, the way he'd positioned himself as someone who understood her, someone special, someone she could trust. She saved them all to a folder, labeled it evidence, sent it to her own email, then to Rhea Morris. The next day, Rhea Morris met with Monica in her office. She explained the process carefully. They needed to collect Monica's phone as evidence, the messages, photos, any communication with Collins. Monica nodded, handed over her phone, watched Rhea put on gloves, document everything, write down the make and model, the condition. She had Monica sign forms, chain of custody paperwork, making the private messages official legal evidence. Monica's hand shook, signing her name. This was real now, permanent, part of a case file. Rhea was gentle, professional, explained each step. asked permission before each action, made sure Monica understood her rights, that she could stop at any time. But Monica didn't stop. She signed everything, answered every question, because this needed to happen, because staying silent hadn't protected her. I was sitting in math class 3 days later when the teacher mentioned test scores. Just a casual comment about how the SAT retakes would be scheduled soon. Something snapped in my chest. Couldn't breathe. The room tilted. My heart pounded so hard I thought everyone could hear it. Sweat broke out on my forehead. My hands went numb. I stood up fast, knocked my textbook off the desk. Everyone stared. The teacher asked if I was okay. I shook my head. Couldn't talk. She sent someone to get Paige Mason. I made it to the hallway before my legs gave out. Sat down hard against the lockers. Paige found me there, knelt down next to me, started talking in this calm, steady voice. Breathe with me. In through your nose. Count to 4. Hold it. Out through your mouth. Count to 6. She demonstrated. I tried to follow. Couldn't. Tried again. My chest hurt. She kept going. Patient. Steady. In. Hold. Out. Slowly, my breathing matched hers. The panic started to fade. She walked me to her office, got me water, sat with me while I shook. She explained that trauma responses are normal, that what I witnessed was traumatic, that panic attacks don't mean I'm weak or broken, that my body was trying to protect me. She taught me more breathing exercises, gave me a card with instructions, told me to practice every day, not just when I'm panicking, to build the skill when I'm calm so it's there when I need it. I nodded, took the card, felt embarrassed but also grateful. That afternoon, the SAT coordinator sent an email to everyone who'd been in the gym that day. They'd scheduled a retake date, 6 weeks from now. Same location, different proctors. My college application deadlines were getting closer. I still didn't have scores to send. The pressure sat on my chest like a weight. I needed those scores, needed to do well, needed to prove the whole thing hadn't ruined my future. But thinking about sitting in that gym again made it hard to breathe. Listen to 90 Seconds and rate me 5 stars on Spotify. Doing a giveaway for people who did this and show proof on my Instagram. There will be 4 winners, and you get to choose between a Spotify or Amazon gift card. Even when I wasn't having a panic attack, even when I was just sitting in my room doing nothing, the pressure was there, constant, heavy, reminding me that one morning had changed everything. Detective Abbott called me 2 days later while I was eating cereal. He explained they were running tests on Monica's note, fingerprints, ink analysis, checking if anything else was written on the paper before she tore it off. I needed to come in and sign another statement, just confirming I got the note directly from Monica, that I saw her write it, that nobody else touched it before I handed it over. I drove to the police station after school, sat in the same interview room as before, signed my name on 3 different forms. Each one said basically the same thing, but in slightly different legal language. Abbott added them to a folder that was getting thick with papers, evidence, documentation, official record of everything that happened. He thanked me, and I left. Got in my car, sat there for a minute thinking about how that tiny folded note was analyzed in some lab somewhere. Monica spent Saturday afternoon in her father's study while he was at a school board meeting. She wasn't supposed to go through his papers, but she needed to know, needed proof of what she already understood, but couldn't quite believe. She opened desk drawers carefully, looked through files, found old credit card statements in a folder marked taxes, flipped through January, February, stopped on her birthday. There it was, Hillside Hotel, $247. The date matched, the location matched. Everything Collins had told her about keeping it special, about waiting until it was legal, about celebrating her finally being 18. She pulled out her phone, hands shaking, photographed the statement, made sure the date was clear, the hotel name, the amount, took 3 photos to be sure. Then she opened her email, attached all 3 pictures, typed Rhea Morris's address from the card she'd been given, wrote 1 word in the message, evidence, hit send before she could second-guess herself. I went to the grocery store on Sunday to pick up stuff for dinner, walked down the cereal aisle, stopped dead. Collins was standing there, 3 feet away, staring at boxes like he was actually reading the nutrition labels. My stomach dropped. He glanced over, saw me. His face went tight. Neither of us moved. Neither of us spoke. Then this older woman came around the corner, stopped, looked at Collins, really looked. Her eyes went wide. She pointed at him, started talking loud, asking if he was the teacher from the news, the one who got that girl pregnant. Her voice carried. Other people turned to look. Collins's jaw clenched. His hands gripped the cart handle. The woman kept going, saying she recognized him from the paper, asking what kind of person does that. Collins let go of the cart, just left it there in the middle of the aisle, walked fast toward the exit. The woman called after him. Other shoppers stared. I stood there frozen, watching him disappear through the automatic doors, my heart pounding. Cereal forgotten. Monday morning I checked the school portal before first period. New message from Monica. I opened it, read the words. Miscarriage confirmed. Complete. No complications. Just facts. Clinical language. Like a medical report. But I could feel something underneath. The grief she wasn't saying. The loss that didn't fit into simple sentences. I stared at my phone. Tried to think of what to say. Everything sounded wrong. Too much or too little. Finally, I just typed back. I'm sorry. Sent it. Hoped she understood I meant it for everything. Not just the medical stuff. The whole terrible situation she was living through. The school scheduled a parent forum for Tuesday night. Safety and oversight. I didn't want to go, but Belinda said I should. That people needed to see I wasn't hiding. She drove me there. The auditorium was packed. Every seat filled. Parents standing along the walls. The energy felt angry, scared, demanding. We slipped in through the back door, found chairs in the last row. Up front, the acting principal was trying to explain policies, procedures, how things were supposed to work. Parents started yelling over him, asking how this happened under their watch, why nobody noticed, what they were going to do to make sure it never happened again. One woman stood up, said her daughter had complained about Collins being too friendly 2 years ago, said the school dismissed it, told her daughter she was being dramatic. The room exploded, everyone talking at once. Belinda grabbed my hand, squeezed it. We sat there listening, watching, understanding that this went way deeper than just Monica. Wednesday morning, Rhea Morris sent out an official notice. Collins was barred from all school property, no contact with any students. The interim measures were being extended indefinitely. It was supposed to make everyone feel safer, protected. But the track team acted like she'd personally attacked them. They wore their team jackets every day, walked the halls in groups, glared at anyone who seemed sympathetic to Monica. The school split into camps, people who believed Monica, people who defended Collins, people who just wanted it to go away. The hallways felt different, tense, everyone watching everyone else, trying to figure out which side they were on. Thursday, I had to meet with Rhea for a follow-up. She asked how I was handling everything, if I felt safe at the school, if anyone was giving me problems. Then she mentioned something else, said it carefully, like she was testing how I'd react. Another former student had come forward, someone else with concerns about Collins. She couldn't tell me details, privacy rules, active investigation, but she wanted me to know. The news hit me hard, made my chest tight, because it meant Monica wasn't the first, just the first one people couldn't ignore, the first one who got pregnant, who miscarried in front of 200 witnesses, who finally made it impossible to look away. I thanked Rhea, left her office, walked to my next class feeling sick, thinking about how many others there might be, how long this had been going on. Detective Abbott got a warrant approved on Friday. He told me about it when he called to update me on the case. They were searching Collins's electronic devices, computer, phone, tablet. The forensic team would image everything, copy all the data, then spend weeks going through it, looking for messages, photos, anything that showed a pattern, anything that proved he'd done this before, done this to other students. Abbott sounded tired but determined, said these cases take time, that digital forensics is slow, careful work, that they'd find what was there if it existed. I hung up. Thought about Collins's computer being taken apart by experts, all his secrets getting exposed, everything he thought he'd hidden coming into the light. The district appointed a new acting principal that same week, sent out an email explaining the conflict of interest. Principal Lombardi couldn't oversee an investigation involving his own daughter. The new guy started Monday. Monica messaged me that night, said her house had gone completely silent. Her parents weren't talking, not to each other, not to her, just moving around like ghosts, passing in hallways, eating meals separately. Her mom cried in her bedroom. Her dad worked late every night. Nobody acknowledged what happened. Nobody discussed it. The family was falling apart in slow motion. Monica wrote that she was starting to understand. Her family might not survive this, that some damage doesn't heal, that speaking up cost more than she'd imagined. I read her message 3 times, didn't know how to respond. What comfort could I possibly offer? Saturday afternoon, my phone buzzed. Another message from Monica, but this one felt different. The tone, the words. She wrote it clear and direct. Be a witness, not a savior. I need people who'll tell the truth, not people who think they're rescuing me. I stared at the screen, read it again. Understood finally what she was saying, what she needed from me. Not protection, not rescue, just honesty. Just someone willing to say what actually happened without trying to fix everything. I typed back one word. Okay, sent it, meant it completely. This wasn't about me being a hero, never was. This was about Monica taking control of her own story, making her own choices, fighting her own fight, and me standing beside her, telling the truth, being a witness to what really happened. Nothing more, nothing less. The SAT retake arrived 3 weeks later on a Saturday morning. I sat in a different gym with different proctors and tried to focus on the test booklet in front of me. My hands shook so badly the pencil kept slipping between my fingers. I had to grip it tighter just to fill in the bubbles. The questions blurred together. Math problems that should have made sense looked like random symbols. Reading passages went in one eye and out the other without sticking anywhere in my brain. I finished because the timer ran out, not because I actually completed the test properly. Walking out afterward, I couldn't remember a single question I'd answered. Just the feeling of sitting there pretending everything was normal when nothing felt normal anymore. The new gym. The new proctors who didn't know what happened. The empty chair where Monica should have been sitting. I drove home in silence and went straight to my room. Monday morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing nonstop. Messages flooding in from accounts I didn't recognize. The hashtag #StandWithCoach was trending locally. People were posting about Collins being a good teacher who got his life ruined by lies. They called me a snitch. Said I made up the whole thing for attention. Told me to shut up and stop destroying a good man. Some of the messages were just mean. Others felt scary. Threats about what would happen if I kept talking. Descriptions of ways they could make me sorry. I showed Belinda the worst ones during lunch. She sat next to me on the couch, scrolling through my phone with her jaw tight. She helped me block the accounts one by one. Made me screenshot everything first in case we needed proof later. Told me to stop reading the comments and stay off social media for a while. I tried but kept checking anyway. Couldn't help it. Detective Abbott called that same week about the hotel security footage. Police had pulled recordings from Monica's 18th birthday. The stills showed Collins walking through the front entrance at 7:42 in the evening. Monica appeared separately at 7:46, 4 minutes apart, both of them visible together in the elevator going up. The timestamps were right there in the corner of each frame. Abbott emailed me copies as part of the evidence file. I stared at the images on my computer screen, feeling sick. Collins looked relaxed in the footage. Casual clothes, small bag in his hand. Monica looked different, dressed up, nervous. You could see it even in the grainy security photo. The 4-minute gap between arrivals was deliberate, planned, made to look like they weren't together. But the elevator footage showed the truth. Monica met with the prosecutor later that week to discuss criminal charges. She told me about it afterward through a message. Said her hands were shaking the whole time sitting in that office. The prosecutor explained the educator-student statute, how it applied even after Monica turned 18 because Collins was still her teacher, still had authority over her grades and recommendations. Monica wrote that she was leaning toward pressing charges, even though it meant everything would become more public, more permanent, court dates and testimony and her name in official records. She knew what it would cost, but she was ready to do it anyway. I wrote back that I supported whatever choice she made, meant it completely. Collins violated the no-contact order 2 days after that conversation. Sent Monica a text from a number she didn't recognize. The message said, "Please don't do this. We can fix this together." Monica screenshotted it immediately, forwarded everything straight to Abbott with a note about the unknown number. Abbott traced it back within hours. Burner phone purchased at a convenience store near Collins's apartment. Security footage from the store showed Collins buying it with cash. Abbott called Monica to confirm and started paperwork for additional charges, violating a no-contact order, using a burner phone to avoid detection. Each violation made things worse for Collins. Monica told me she felt relieved he'd messed up, gave them more evidence of his pattern, more proof he couldn't follow basic rules or respect boundaries. The hearing for the protective order happened the following week. I sat in the back of the courtroom watching everything unfold. Monica walked to the witness stand wearing a simple dress, hands folded in her lap. The judge asked her questions about why she needed the order. Monica described feeling unsafe with Collins trying to contact her, explained the burner phone incident. Her voice stayed steady the whole time. Collins sat at a table with his lawyer looking smaller than I remembered. The judge listened to both sides but didn't take long to decide. Granted the protective order without much discussion. Made it legally enforceable with criminal penalties if Collins violated it again. Monica walked out of the courtroom with her shoulders straighter. I caught her eye from my seat, and she gave a tiny nod. The preliminary Title IX findings came back during spring break. Rhea sent out a summary report to everyone involved in the investigation. The school had missed multiple red flags about Collins over the past few years. 3 different complaints from female students about him being too friendly, sitting too close during office hours, making comments about their appearance. Each complaint got dismissed as personality differences or misunderstandings. The report documented lack of proper training for staff on recognizing grooming behavior, no clear protocols for handling concerns about teacher-student boundaries. Everything was right there in black and white. The system had failed before Monica, failed other girls who tried to speak up. The report recommended mandatory training and new oversight procedures. Reading it made me angry and sad at the same time. I met with Paige the next week to file formal reports about the harassment messages, showed her all the screenshots Belinda had helped me save, the threats, the name-calling, the accounts that kept making new profiles after I blocked them. Paige documented everything carefully, asked questions about whether I felt safe at the school, whether anyone had approached me in person. She worked with administration to adjust my safety plan, different routes between classes so I could avoid certain hallways, permission to leave any situation where I felt threatened, a contact number to call if something happened. It felt both protective and depressing, like I needed special accommodations just to get through the school day, but I was grateful someone was taking it seriously. Sloan published a follow-up article in the local paper that Friday. The headline mentioned a second accuser coming forward with concerns about Collins. She didn't name anyone or give specific details, just reported that the investigation had expanded beyond Monica. The comment section shifted after that article, not completely, but enough to notice. Some of Collins's loudest defenders went quiet. People started asking questions about whether this was a pattern instead of a one-time mistake. The track team looked more uncertain in the hallways. A few of them stopped wearing their team jackets, stopped posting supportive messages about their coach. The tide was turning slowly. The hallways felt different now, more watchful than loud. People looked at each other trying to figure out who believed what, who supported Monica and who supported Collins. Some of Collins's former supporters stopped wearing anything that connected them to him. Others doubled down, wore their track team gear every single day, glared at anyone who seemed sympathetic to Monica. I learned to read the room before walking into it, check who was in the hallway before heading to my locker, avoid certain bathrooms where the track team hung out, take longer routes that felt safer, even if they made me late. The whole school had divided into invisible camps, and everyone was keeping score. That week, Monica sat in her bedroom with a blank journal open on her lap. She'd bought it 3 days ago, thinking maybe writing would help, but the empty pages just stared back at her. She picked up the pen and started writing about the miscarriage, about the grief nobody wanted to talk about, because talking about it meant admitting she'd been pregnant in the first place. She wrote about the cramping that had finally stopped, but the emptiness that felt worse. She wrote about how people kept asking if she was okay physically, but nobody asked about the loss itself, the baby she never wanted but somehow still mourned. She filled 2 pages before her hand started shaking. Then she wrote something that surprised her. She was going to testify anyway, not despite the loss, but because of it. Because Collins had taken more from her than anyone realized, and she was done letting him control the story. She closed the journal and felt something shift inside her chest. Not peace exactly, but determination. The prosecutor's office called me 2 days later. They needed me to testify before the grand jury about what I witnessed during the SATs. I showed up at the courthouse on a Tuesday morning wearing the nicest clothes I owned and feeling like I might throw up. The grand jury room was smaller than I expected. 23 people sitting in rows watching me. The prosecutor asked straightforward questions about the note, the blood, Collins's behavior when Monica got taken away. I answered as clearly as I could, describing how his face went white when he saw her on the gurney, how he yelled for us to leave when Mrs. Banks tried to stop us, how desperate he sounded. My voice shook, but I kept going. The prosecutor showed me the note Monica had passed me, now sealed in an evidence bag, asked me to confirm I'd received it directly from her during the test. I said yes, described her shaky handwriting and sweaty hands. When they dismissed me, I walked out feeling scared but steady. This was what Monica needed from me, someone who would tell the truth without making it about myself. The grand jury took 3 days to decide. Then the news broke that they'd returned an indictment for improper relationship between educator and student. Collins got arrested at his apartment early on a Friday morning. The local news showed footage of him being walked to a police car in handcuffs. His lawyer released a statement about how they'd fight the charges vigorously. Collins posted bail that same afternoon, $50,000. The conditions were strict, though. GPS monitoring, no contact with minors, can't go within 500 feet of the school or any school property. The news felt like a small victory, even though nothing was actually resolved yet. Monica texted me a single word when the indictment came through. Finally, I knew exactly what she meant. The system was finally taking this seriously, finally treating Collins like someone who'd done something wrong instead of a respected teacher who deserved the benefit of the doubt. Collins resigned from his position the following Monday. The union negotiated the terms, limited public statements in exchange for him leaving quietly, no admission of wrongdoing in the resignation letter, just generic language about pursuing other opportunities. His teaching license got suspended pending the outcome of the criminal case. The state board sent official notice that he couldn't work in any educational setting until the matter was resolved. The track team had to adjust to a new coach mid-season. Some of them seemed relieved. Others acted like we'd destroyed something good. I watched them practice from the parking lot one afternoon and saw how different the energy was. Less confident, more uncertain. The new coach was fine, but he wasn't Collins. Wasn't the guy who'd built the program from nothing. I felt bad for them for about 5 seconds before remembering why Collins was gone in the first place. Monica had a breakdown 3 weeks later. I found her in Paige's office, struggling to breathe. Paige saw me in the hallway and waved me in without asking. Monica was hunched over in the chair, making these awful gasping sounds. Her phone was on the floor, showing a comment section full of people calling her a liar and attention seeker, saying she wanted money or fame, saying Collins's life was ruined over a consensual relationship. I sat down next to her and started doing the breathing exercises Paige had taught me. In for 4 counts, hold for 4, out for 4. Monica tried to follow along but kept losing the rhythm. I put my hand on her shoulder and counted out loud. Slowly, her breathing started to match mine. We sat there for 20 minutes doing the exercises together, both of us shaking, both of us getting through it. When Monica finally looked up, her eyes were red but clearer. She grabbed my hand and squeezed once. Didn't say anything. Didn't need to. The prosecutor called Monica in for a meeting the next week, offered Collins a plea deal to avoid putting her through a trial. Monica told me about it that afternoon, sitting in her car in the school parking lot. She was torn. Part of her wanted him to face a jury, wanted 12 people to hear everything he'd done and decide he was guilty, but another part just wanted this to be over, wanted to stop reliving the worst moments of her life every time someone asked for more details. The plea deal meant no trial, no cross-examination, no defense attorney trying to make her look like she'd wanted it. But it also meant Collins wouldn't face the maximum penalty, wouldn't have to sit through testimony about grooming and manipulation. She asked what I thought, and I told her the truth. Whatever she decided was right. This was her choice to make, and I'd support either way. She nodded and stared out the windshield for a long time without saying anything else. Monica went home that night planning to tell her parents about the plea deal. About everything, really. They'd been silent since the hospital, moving around the house like ghosts. Her father especially. He'd barely looked at her since finding out about Collins. She found them in the living room and just started talking. Told them about the grooming that started when she was 16. About Collins waiting for her birthday. About the pregnancy and miscarriage. About deciding to accept the plea deal. Her mother started crying halfway through. Her father sat completely still. When Monica finished talking and asked if they had anything to say, her father stood up and walked out of the room. Just left. Her mother kept crying but didn't say anything either. No apologies. No understanding. No acknowledgement that their silence had made everything harder. Monica sat there for another 10 minutes waiting for someone to come back. Nobody did. She went to her room and realized her family might never recover from this. The knowledge sat heavy in her chest. Another loss to add to all the others. Monica accepted the plea deal 2 days later, called the prosecutor and said yes. The conditions were strict. Collins had to surrender his teaching license permanently, serve 5 years probation, register as a sex offender, maintain permanent no contact with Monica, no social media posts about her, no indirect communication through third parties. It wasn't perfect. Wasn't the jury conviction part of her had wanted, but it was justice. Real consequences that would follow Collins for the rest of his life. Monica told me she felt okay about the decision. Not happy exactly, but okay. Like she'd chosen to protect herself instead of sacrificing herself to punish him. That felt important somehow. Felt like taking back control. The plea hearing happened 3 weeks later. The courtroom was packed with people on both sides. Collins's supporters filled the left side. Track team members, former students, teachers who still believed in him. Monica's supporters took the right side. Smaller group. Me and Paige and Detective Abbott. Some students who'd been harassed for believing Monica. Sloane sat in the press section taking notes. Monica sat in the front row shaking but staying upright. I watched from the back as Collins stood and pleaded guilty to improper relationship between educator and student. His voice was quiet, almost robotic. The judge asked if he understood the terms. Collins said yes. Asked if anyone had coerced him. Collins said no. The judge accepted the plea and imposed sentence. 5 years probation, permanent license revocation, sex offender registration, permanent no-contact order. Collins's lawyer tried to argue for reduced terms. The judge shut him down fast, said the evidence showed a pattern of predatory behavior and the sentence was appropriate. Monica kept her eyes forward the whole time. Didn't look at Collins even when he glanced her way. When it was over, she stood up and walked out with her shoulders straight. I followed at a distance, gave her space but stayed close enough if she needed me. The Title IX final report came out the next week. 20 pages documenting everything the school had missed. 3 previous complaints about Collins being too friendly with female students. Each one dismissed as personality differences. No proper training for staff on recognizing grooming behavior. No clear protocols for handling boundary concerns. The report substantiated multiple policy violations and recommended mandatory training for all staff. New oversight procedures. Better reporting protocols. The district announced they'd implement everything within 60 days. It felt good knowing Monica's case might prevent this from happening to someone else. That the system was actually changing because she'd been brave enough to speak up. The report didn't fix what happened to her. Didn't undo the trauma or bring back what she'd lost, but it meant something. Meant her pain had purpose beyond just surviving it. The SAT scores arrived in my email 3 weeks after the plea hearing. I opened the notification on my phone during lunch and stared at the numbers. Lower than I wanted. Not terrible, but not the scores I'd been aiming for since sophomore year. I sat there in the cafeteria with my sandwich getting cold and felt the weight of it settle in my chest. Not disappointment exactly, just acceptance that this whole thing had changed my timeline in ways I couldn't control. I spent that weekend at my kitchen table with my laptop open and a stack of college brochures spread out around me, crossed off the reach schools that needed perfect scores, added some safer options, rewrote my personal statement 3 times, because the old version talked about academic focus, and I couldn't pretend that's who I was anymore. By Sunday night, I had a new list and new essays, and it felt okay. Not great, but okay. Like I was working with what I had instead of mourning what I'd lost. Monica walked into the scholarship committee meeting 2 days later and sat across from 4 people holding folders with her name on them. They asked about her grades dropping senior year, and she could have lied, could have blamed stress or family issues without getting specific. But she looked at them and made the choice to tell the truth. Said she'd been in a relationship with a teacher that ended badly. Said she'd experienced a medical emergency during the SATs. Said she'd spent months dealing with legal proceedings and therapy and learning to function again. The committee members wrote notes and didn't make eye contact, and Monica felt the vulnerability cost her something she couldn't name. But when she walked out of that conference room, her hands were steady. She'd told her own story instead of hiding behind someone else's version of it. The outcome was still uncertain, but the telling had mattered. Sloan wrote a follow-up article that ran in the paper the next week. I found it online during study hall and read it on my phone. The headline focused on institutional failures and prevention instead of the scandal details everyone had been obsessed with before. She included quotes from education experts about grooming patterns and power dynamics. Near the end, she had an anonymized quote from a student witness about the importance of believing students when they come forward. I recognized my own words rearranged and cleaned up for print. It felt weird seeing my thoughts in a newspaper even without my name attached, but the focus had shifted from Monica's personal trauma to systemic problems, and I was glad for that. Glad the conversation was moving toward prevention instead of just punishment. Monica and I met at a diner off campus on a Thursday afternoon. We sat in a booth by the window and ordered fries and milkshakes and spent 20 minutes talking about a reality show we both hate-watched. She told me about the terrible elimination in last week's episode, and I complained about the judging being rigged. We argued about which college has the better engineering program and whether commuting is worth it to save money. Normal stuff. Boring stuff. The kind of conversation we'd never had before because everything had always been heavy and complicated. When we finally left and walked to our cars in the parking lot, it hit me that this was progress. Not the dramatic kind. Just the quiet kind where 2 people can sit together without the weight of everything that happened crushing the air between them. It felt good. Felt like maybe we were both learning how to exist in the world again, without the case hanging over every interaction. Paige called me into her office the following week and helped me work on my college essay. I'd been stuck trying to write about the SAT incident without making myself sound like some kind of hero. She read my draft and pointed out all the places where I was either too humble or too self-important. We spent an hour going back and forth until I found the right angle. Wrote about learning that doing the right thing is messy and complicated, that helping someone doesn't mean fixing everything for them, that respecting people's choices matters even when you want to swoop in and solve all their problems. Paige made me cut 3 paragraphs of over-explanation and add more concrete details about the actual day. By the time we finished, I had something that felt honest. Not perfect, but honest. Something that showed I'd learned from this without pretending I had all the answers. Monica got the email from the scholarship committee on a Monday morning. Partial scholarship. Not the full ride she'd been hoping for since freshman year. The terms included an option to commute instead of living on campus, which meant staying near her family, near her father, who still barely spoke to her, near her mother who cried but never apologized, near the town where everyone knew what had happened. She sat in her car in the school parking lot reading the offer 3 times. It wasn't what she'd dreamed about. Wasn't the fresh start at some faraway campus where nobody knew her story, but it was movement forward. It was money for tuition and a path toward a degree and a chance to build something new, even if she couldn't escape the old. She hit reply and typed her acceptance before she could second-guess it. Decided that taking what she could get was better than waiting for perfect circumstances that might never come. Word spread through school the next week that Collins had moved out of town. Someone's cousin saw him loading boxes into a truck. Someone else heard he was living with relatives in another state. The online comment sections kept buzzing with people relitigating the case and arguing about consent and power dynamics. But in our actual hallways, things got quieter. The track team stopped wearing their support ribbons. The arguments in the cafeteria died down. People moved on to other drama. Senior prank planning, prom dates, college decisions. Life kept going the way it always does. Collins became old news, a cautionary tale people would reference in health class discussions about inappropriate relationships, but not the consuming scandal that had dominated everything for months. The shift happened gradually, and then all at once, like everyone collectively decided they were tired of fighting about it. Graduation day arrived on a Saturday in June. The ceremony was in the football stadium with families packed into the bleachers and 200 seniors lined up in blue gowns. Monica walked across the stage when they called her name, and the applause was scattered. Not hostile exactly, but not enthusiastic either. Uncertain, like people didn't know if they were supposed to cheer for her or stay quiet. I was sitting 12 rows back, and when she grabbed her diploma, she turned and looked out at the crowd. Our eyes met for just a second. She gave me this tiny nod. Not a smile, just acknowledgement. I nodded back. That moment said more than any conversation could have. Said, I see you. I know what this cost. I know you survived. It felt more real than all the cheering for the popular kids who came before and after her. More honest than the forced celebration happening all around us. On the drive home after graduation, I was scrolling through my phone at a red light and found the screenshot of Monica's note still saved in my photos. The one I'd taken that first day for evidence. I stared at it for a second, her handwriting shaky from pain. The words that had started everything. Then I deleted it, hit the trash icon, and confirmed. The original was filed somewhere in the legal system where it belonged, part of the official record. I didn't need my own copy anymore. The light turned green, and I put my phone down and took a full breath for the first time in 6 months. We'd both survived this. Monica was going to college. Collins was gone. The system had changed at least a little bit. Nothing felt perfectly resolved. Her family was still broken. My SAT scores were still lower than I'd wanted, but we'd made it through. That had to count for something. And that's the end of this story. I always hope you take something from these moments that you can actually use. Even one small insight is worth it. Subscribe so you are ready when the next one drops.